There's so much going on this show. There's heat, there's laughter, there's workery. Like, this is just a great buffet of pro wrestling.
This is the Attitude Era apex. How about this? How about that?
It's time to show some appreciation. It's Tales from the Attitude Era. Welcome, it's Rob Pasbani, as always, joined by the man who delivered Mae Young's hand. He was also one of the lead writers in WWE during this period that we're reviewing. It's, of course, Tommy Blacha. Tommy, welcome.
The man who delivered the hand.
He's a man with a hand.
Odd. Wonderful. Yep. That's my legacy.
We're reviewing perhaps the hottest episode of Raw since we've started the show. I think this crowd was so hot.
Yeah.
This is the February 7th, 2000 edition of Monday Night Raw. And it's from Dallas, Texas, at what is now the American Airlines Arena. I don't know what it was called back then.
Reunion Arena, I believe, back then. Or is there a new one? I don't know. I can't keep
Or
up.
maybe you're right. You might be right. This might be the old arena, and they built a new one called the American Airlines. But this was the largest one of the largest audiences ever for cable TV. The main event, which we'll get to, of course, at the end of the show, the 10-man tag, drew an 8.11 rating.
Unbelievable. Wow. And just, it goes to show you too, my recollection of this, it was, I don't want to say haphazard, but we've talked a lot about like the machine, you just like the last minute, like throw things together. So, and in terms of like, okay, the Radicalz are here. I think they even said Radicalz with an S, even though earlier they suggested Radicalz with a Z, but the graphic didn't catch up. Just goes to show you, like, name them, Radicalz with a Z. Oh shit, the graphic said S. Do we drop the S? Shit like that happens all the time. But even beyond that, just through discussion with, usual like breakfast thing, Gewurz, Shane, Stephanie, Vince, like, okay, what if the Radicalz go heel? Blah, blah, blah. What about the faction? There's just so much stuff thrown out. And I remember being like, a lot of the discussion was like, well, now, like, why would Triple H let the Radicalz back in? That was kind of a conundrum. Like, why would he? And it's like, oh, maybe they joined him. And it was just like that quick, like, okay, set the wheels in motion. Then you throw them. Here's just a big, crazy 10-man tag. And that's when the agents and everyone goes to work. And then you look at it and go like, what an incredible show. But these fundamental building blocks were pretty last minute and thrown together and thrown to the machine. And then it cranks out like an 8.1 show. My recollection wasn't like, here's all the plans. We have it all metered out. It was kind of like, we're scrambling. Fuck, the Radicalz were just 3 weeks ago was the first time I even seen them, coming in.
Right. And also on Thursday, you painted yourselves into a corner with the Eddie Guerrero injury, resulting in the storyline completely going awry, where the Radicalz were supposed to win their contracts and remain faces. But now it's like, all right, so they lost. How do we, in kayfabe, get him on the show? And I thought it was handled perfect. It was handled completely logically in the confines of the kayfabe rules.
Right. And, you just talk about every angle. And I remember just like being like, well, yeah, okay, let's do a deal where they join with Triple H, and then then there can be ramifications of inter-squabbling or whatever. We'll worry about that later. It's almost like, here's the note. Go produce it.
There's a lot of we'll worry about that later, I feel, going on right now in the booking, and just from being in the future, you could tell, especially with the main event storyline and the certain phrases being used that immediately get invalidated right after, of course.
And that is problematic. But at the same time, I always think what's so exciting about this era is a lot of that makes sense because, like a football game plan, it's like you change when things go awry. And sometimes when things are too set and too long-term set, it kind of seems stale. You know what I mean? So half the show, you're reacting to what's happening, kayfabe or not, or what happens live, or reacting to like who's getting over, what are big pops, what matches are good, and integrating that quickly and having this machine ready to do that really makes it seem makes it more exciting to me, and catch as catch can is a phrase in wrestling. It's almost like I like to use that as a phrase in even producing wrestling, if that makes sense. So that's why the Attitude Era was so great, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and I think so. I agree. Like being able to shift with it, not having a plan for the Radicalz ended up kind of working out in your favor, because if you were so precious about them being faces,
Right.
then this wouldn't have happened. Then you'd retcon some other excuse for how they got contracts or whatever. But instead, you just went with it. And I like this idea that like, oh, we'll figure it out. Like we know what we're doing.
Right.
Because there's also the idea of like, well, you're realigning 4 big mid-carders, or upper mid-carder, however you want to position them. But like, it's a big alignment shift because now they need opponents,
Right.
But you're not thinking like, who are they going to face in 3 months? We'll figure it out,
Yeah. And the beauty of it is like, well, it's because someone's going to have to turn heel. I guess someone's going to have to turn, you know what I mean? Like just, all right. Then, there's a ripple effect, but it's good because it's exciting and, things will happen. And before we start, I just want to say, I think I may have said this story before, but something very funny that happened at Reunion Arena. I remember in Dallas before the show was a lot of times there'll be like the wrestlers will go, the superstars will go to a local gym to work out and you'll see like, when you get there, it's like, oh, catering this way, training, and they'll have address to like a local gym. But sometimes some arenas have like the gym for the team, this time the Dallas Mavericks in there. So the guys will work out at the arena. They'll come early, like 9 a.m. So I just remember I was in the hallway and there was this guy, employee, like an older gentleman, like custodian or something, cleaning up, and then out of the training room, the weight room, comes Albert, who's massive individual. What is he? 315, 320, 6'6", big head. He comes out all sweaty and like amazed into the hallway. I'm talking to him and he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe how strong Kane is. He's doing like some behind the back, something or other. My God." And then he walks past this guy. So this guy just looks at him like, that fucking is the biggest guy I've ever seen in my life. And he's just amazed at the strength of someone else inside there. And you just hear bang, hanging and banging in there. It was just like, I've always remember this guy's face like, oh, fuck, these guys are. It was just, a funny moment that I put away in my head from the Attitude Era 2000.
Also, we saw Paul Bearer return this episode.
That's right.
Which I was surprised by. Was this a planned return how did he get back in the fold?
I think it was just one of those respectful, loyal things that was kind of spun, like, oh, we're going to have Paul Bearer back. It was kind of presented to us. I think in a way it was like, when The Undertaker really took off, they kind of like aced him out because it was maybe a little bit too much of that era. It was a little bit too humorous. And The Undertaker started to take this different sort of patina, if you will, of, just kind of didn't match. So he kind of like, I think everyone felt bad a little bit. They're like, oh, and The Undertaker's taking off to be one of the all-time greats. Paul Bearer scoots to the side. So, this was just like a nod, if you will, to him, and kind of thinking like it's not going to be a long-term thing, unless, of course, people pop so crazy, in which then it is a long, that's like everything. Look at Mae Young and, why was she was never planned like this will be a 7-month run. It was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Oh, they're going, things turn into longer and then sometimes they go away.
Right. Well, let's get into it. The show starts with an excellent recap of SmackDown. And the recap makes a big deal out of Eddie Guerrero being injured. So they're not shying away from the news here. It's part of the storyline now.
Part of the storyline. And the marching orders are always, if you can see a real injury or anything, quote, real, play it up. It adds to, because it's still, we're in the quasi kayfabe area. So it's still era. So it still, adds to legitimacy.
And I like how it starts here. So, you do the pyro, the ballyhoo. And first of all, this crowd is so hot. There are some crazy signs in the crowd. There is a guy with a Rikishi sign, and it's 2 giant circles with like tassels from them. So it's like his butt. Like it's a view of his butt. It's pretty great. Just a great crowd. Texas in general, always a good crowd for wrestling anywhere in Texas, I feel.
I just like to think of that guy who all week he was working on that sign, designing it. How old is he? And things like that. Like, you know, sometimes you see like people. I always remember going to wrestling as a kid and we always root for the heels. And my friend had a sign with like a Russia #1 or something.
Yes.
And then there was like, it was real heat. Cause that was back in the day, like no one rooted for the heels. And we were in the lower part. And then there was this whole, like the lower bowl in Detroit. People were really like, yeah, you want you to fucking go to Russia. It was like real, like, Jesus, take it easy. And, and the kid who had the sign was just like this, 90-pound kid, and people were really like, fuck you, go to Russia. And this was, the 80s or the early, or even the late 70s or whatever. And then I just remember next to this kid was just this drunken guy. He looked like an accountant, something in his 50s in a crumpled suit. He got up on the chair next to my friend and he pulled like a small Soviet flag out of his pocket and he started waving it. Like, so he was just some weird drunken accountant who liked to root for heels.
Love it.
Yeah. So
yeah, very clever way to start things off. You start off with X-Pac coming out for a match. He's coming in, and as he's walking up the ramp, the Radicalz come through the crowd and crash the party, get in the ring. Where's security? Where's Jim Dotson? They get the mic. X-Pac immediately grabs a chair for self-defense. And I like also that you gave all of them mic time. They're not the best talkers, but you gave them enough verbiage, as Vince would say, where it's simple enough for them not to stumble over it. Like very basic sentences to deal with. Here, I don't know.
Yeah, and this is something we've talked about before that I always hate when promos have to really fit a script and people feel like I'm fucking a lineup. And that's why when we talk about people like Chris Benoit, it's like he's not a good talker, but he was such a smart, good wrestler in sense that like he just represented intensity. And if he fucked a word up, he never. Bret Hart was the same way. There's a lot of guys that like you wouldn't call them great talkers, but they were in the moment always. And that's like everything. It's bad when someone thinks they're a better talker than they are, and then they fumble. Like, well, I'm really gonna say something cool on the mic, and I fumbled it. Like I fumbled my line. Like that's death. Fumble it just as long as like Chris Benoit, like he didn't need to be a good talker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He never had like shit moments on the mic. And he was so schooled in pro wrestling, that he's like, yeah, I'd rather not talk a lot. I just represent intensity. So. And
agree.
integrity.
Totally agree with what you're saying. And so Perry Saturn was the first to talk. He said, "We don't want to start any trouble. A week ago, we tried to make some noise. An Impact, we tried to get a contract into the WWF." Hands the mic to Malenko, who says, "This Thursday, we had an opportunity and we were good. We were damn good, but just not good enough. We blew it." Which I thought was a great line. Eddie gets the mic. He gets a nice pop. He thanks the fans for the support and for the privilege of being able to perform in front of them. Benoit gets the mic and asks the man who made this all possible, "Is Cactus Jack in the house?" Cactus Jack comes out, gets in the ring. Immediately when he hits the ring, Triple H's music hits. Crowd is booing. Crowd is loud. Stephanie has the mic. She says, "This congregation of admiration makes me want to puke. What's it going to take? These 4 guys played the game and they lost. What's your next play, Cactus Jack?" The Cowboys' defensive line. That line got huge heat.
Cheap heat. Love it.
The 82nd Airborne. The Russian Army. Speaking of the Russians. "You're not going to stop, Jack. And neither are we." As soon as she hands the mic to Triple H, the crowd erupts into asshole chants, which just so over.
Yeah.
Also, Triple H looks great here. This is like the personification of his heel character with the leather jacket, the glasses, the belt. He says, "It's time to put this matter to rest. One more time, you and me and No Way Out. The last time." He tells Cactus Jack he can have any match he wants, but there's not going to be any 2x4s with barbed wire, no thumbtacks, no sharp metallic objects, no sadistic toys. And I like that Cactus takes the mic and he says, All right, you're telling me I can do any match I want. Just no 2x4s, no barbed wire, no metallic objects. You leave me with one choice. Hell in a Cell. Isn't the cell a shiny metallic object? But okay, I get it.
Well, I think you could
toy.
argue that it's kind of matted. It's not really shiny. Maybe the chain link is not shiny per se. So
fair. Triple H's demeanor immediately changes, and he's like, "Oh no, what did I walk into? I didn't consider the Hell in a Cell match. Right. Why did I make that one of the?" Him and Stephanie have a quick conference, and Triple H comes back confident. "You have a deal, but one stipulation. I will go through hell in a cell, but I want your career on the line. You're finished. Your career is over. And I don't mean just Cactus Jack. I mean no more Dude Love, no more Mankind. It's over." I like that he made that immediately clear. So as a fan, you're not like, "Oh, they're gonna get us."
Yeah. Well, we've played that card many times, so now it's I like
right.
Yeah.
Cactus Jack delivering every week now. He's delivering a fucking incredible promo. He did two tonight. He goes, "You want my career? You know what I've done in my career. I've done it all. 3-time world champion, 8-time tag team champion, the original hardcore champion, and the king of the death match. Big Pop. I've done it all except one thing. I have never, ever main evented WrestleMania in my life. So I'll add one more stipulation. If I win, when I win, if I can't beat you, I don't want you ever again." Uh-oh. "But if I win, and you stay home." JR says, "The stakes have never been higher." Triple H agrees to the match, but first he wants to beat Cactus's ass. He tells the Radicalz they could either get out of the ring or show some appreciation to the man who gave you the opportunity. JR asks, "What's he talking about?" "To the man who gave you your contracts." And then the Radicalz turn on Cactus Jack. Huge heat. This is great. And so logical. Yeah, because look, they're friends with Cactus Jack, but they really need this job. They're just left their old job. Yeah.
They're mercenaries. Yeah.
They're not there to make friends. This isn't Friends is War. This is Raw is War.
Right. Where were you to give these lines to Lawler?
I think no, this isn't Raw is Friends. This is Raw is War. That's the better line.
Yeah. What is it? Raw is Friends?
Love it. And also I think it's perfectly logical for Triple H to recognize these guys are fucking tough cookies. We barely eked by in SmackDown, like within the kayfabe world. And I really want to take out Cactus Jack. Maybe I can get them to do my dirty work for me. Well, I just got to give them a contract. Sure.
Pretty good. And while I just put you over for your great line of "This isn't Friends is War," I'm going to demote you for these guys are tough cookies.
I'm sorry. No, I take it back.
These are tough cookies. And you know what else is good about this? I point out, and sometimes things like this will happen and you'll be like, "Oh, fucking shouldn't have done that." A lot of times when you're ending a segment or opening segment talking about a future thing, it kind of is like shitting on the current crowd. Because sometimes I've seen things go flat where they're like, "Oh, great, you're telling us how we paid this money to come here, and you've told us how this incredible thing's going to happen in 3 weeks and then another 6 weeks." You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? We're here now. So, it's always important to you got to end the segment with something heavy. So it didn't end with just and in the future, it'll be this. It was like a big turn and seeing something exciting. So.
This is a very monumental moment for the storyline. A lot set up here. And so they all attack Cactus. Triple H gives him a pedigree. And he says, "Cactus, that's the beginning of the end. 20 days, relish them because it's the end for you." I just want to mention there was a lot of talk in this about how if I beat you, you're gone forever.
Right.
And of course, 1 month later, Cactus, spoiler, Mick Foley is in the WrestleMania 2000 main event. So you had whatever your loose plans were for WrestleMania, right? Were you planning on having him renege on this retirement? No, right? I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It was just you were flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, and frankly, there's always information about because he's beat up too. It's always like,
Right.
and you even like a football team and a football game, and especially something you can't. Wrestling's very physical, so you can't think like, well, is he going to be after Hell in the Cell? Is he going to be able to go after that? Even though it's kind of like, is he really going to retire? Whatever. So that's always out there. Like certainly a football coach is like, it's nothing to be like, oh, here's our plans and here's our star. Oh, his knee went out. Okay, here's our next plans. Now that's more realistic or more. In football, you really have to be ready for it. In wrestling, you don't count on those injuries. But with Cactus Jack at this point, his body is beat up, and he is going to like, what's going to happen in Hell in the Cell? No one knows. So, a couple things are at play there. And also it just was I love retirement matches in wrestling because it's like science fiction. Someone dying, they can always come back.
Right.
There's always like, doesn't matter. But
I remember even at the time just thinking like, oh yeah, this is definitely the end of Foley's career. Like he had been talking, I feel, since that Hell in the Cell, which was 98, that he's going to want to wind down his career.
Yeah.
So this isn't like out of nowhere.
Right.
And very disappointing because for me, I feel like this is such a peak of his character. Like he's so over. He just doesn't have the gas tank as much anymore.
It's good. It's compelling.
Yeah. Backstage, Triple H is celebrating with X-Pac and the Radicalz and says the Outlaws have a match next. So Triple H and X-Pac are going to team with the three Radicalz against Cactus, and if he could even find any partners. If not, Tough Cookie.
Yeah. Now you're using Tough Cookie, correct.
We have New Age Outlaws against Edge and Christian. I like the tag team division is really, really heating up. There's a lot of depth to it right now, where like 4 months ago there really wasn't.
Right.
And so this is really great. I like that the Dudleys came down and spent the whole match threatening JR. Since JR is being so critical of what Bubba's been doing, namely with putting Terry through a table,
right?
Bubba kept getting in his face. And Devon was actually on mic kind of giving their rationale for it and offering their point of view, which I thought was really good. It was great character building for the Dudleys as very unlikable heels.
I agree.
And also, I recognized that at this point, we're beyond the Bubba stutter. There's no more stutter.
Right.
They're too serious now to do the stutter. It's a different, like they're now in like a Tarantino movie. So it would be too comical for him to be stuttering.
Yeah. And then again, that goes to the, flexibility and mercurial ways of the Attitude Era. We're like, yeah, change it. Things need to evolve and change and go to the wayside. And like I said, the rapid pace of everything, like it doesn't, sometimes should we explain it? Fuck it. It's just, it just changes. And when you really look at so many wrestler storylines, things like, oh yeah, I used to remember that, and oh, that went away just because you didn't need it anymore. It became a little bit of an albatross, I think. Yeah,
it served its purpose and that's it. It's done now. And also with Edge and Christian and the Hardys, I thought it's really interesting watching their trajectory these last few months. You had them facing each other in their own little mini universe.
Right.
And now that they've been unleashed back into the world, I feel like they're much more over now. And the crowd knows who they are and roots for them a lot more.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, I thought, is those guys, Edge and Christian and the Hardys, kind of everyone, but they're kind of mainly getting over. Someone might argue and say, oh, the Attitude Era is all about storylines and promos and what have you. But these guys all got over by their in-ring work, really, over the last few months, which is
absolutely refreshing,
I would say.
Yeah, with like virtually no mic time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess they got some promos, but it's not so much on their talking. Also, they're young and good looking. I think that also adds to it.
Yep, without a doubt.
To that point, when Edge got tagged in this match, he got a nice high-pitched Von Erich pop.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really fun back-and-forth match. Everyone's working hard.
The HPVEP, the high-pitched Von Erich pop.
I like it. Put it on a shirt, pal. Ends with the ref distraction. Devon distracts the ref. Bubba gets on the apron, gives Christian a cutter on the top rope to give the Outlaws the win. Not my favorite finish, but understandable given the way the angles are playing. You're not going to, the Outlaws have to win. You don't want Edge and Christian to look weak. They're feuding with the Dudleys. Make the Dudleys cost them the match.
So now you're an understandable finish, Smart Mark, eh? Is that your category? Clean finish, excellent. Understandable, little to the side.
I want to quickly mention,
no good.
to this point, on last week's episode, we were talking about how I ran some wrestling websites back in the day during this era.
Yeah.
And I found some screenshots on the web archive. My website was wrestlingarena.com.
Amazing.
You can look this up for yourself. And in one of the updates, I write about how Royal Rumble 2000 was great because there weren't any screwy finishes.
Yay.
So I am a consistent, clean finish Smart Mark for 25 years.
Without a doubt. I told my wife Allison how I was like, oh my God, Rob showed these things when he was young, making these websites where he was making thousands of dollars, and I just can't get enough of your parents being like, what are you doing? And then like, oh, what are these thousands of dollars you're making from these websites? And then you said you were going to a concert and you're dead. Shouldn't you be covering wrestling? Oh, it was amazing. The entrepreneurial young web surfer.
It was a crazy time to be online. I feel like, the only more beneficial time would have been like a few years ago, just when TikTok was starting. Then you could have really fucking cashed in.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the action. I love that after the match, Bubba gets in JR's face. He's like on all fours on the announce desk, just being like, you better watch your mouth, JR. I'm going to come for you next. And one thing I love about JR is he never, ever cowers to these heels because he's like, I'm an announcer. You can't touch me. Like you're sick. You're sick.
Yeah.
He gives it right back to him. I love it.
Yeah, it's so good.
And what a way to get the Dudleys over. Now, like, they're really scary. Like, they're very, very threatening.
There's always the potential impending doom of, are they going to throw JR through a table?
Right, exactly. Like, JR,
this is legitimate. There's a table there. So that may, instead of like pulling it out from underneath. It's right. There's a table right there. Yeah.
Backstage, Mark Henry's getting ready for his match. He says Mae should stay in the back since she's pregnant now. She has to take care of their little baby. We have the Cowboys in the building. They get a camera shot, but no lower third graphic. Kurt Angle comes out with another top tier promo. I want to mention there's two great signs in the crowd. One of them is a sign that says the three I's: idiocy, ineptitude, and incontinence. But incontinence spelled incorrectly, but that's okay.
And incorrect spelling.
And incorrect spelling.
The four I's. Yeah.
The guy we gave a shout out to at the top of the show with the Rikishi sign, he also had a Wheaties box that he put Kurt Angle's face on, which even got a pop from Jerry Lawler.
And how old was this guy? What do you think?
Probably like in his 30s, right? Like, I don't know.
Incredible.
I would say. I don't know. I mean, it could be in his 20s. Hard to tell. It's so long ago.
Honey, when are you going to clean up that garage and get to those things? Not now. I'm making my Wheaties box.
So Angle has a great promo. Today, I was going to offer you my services as a sports hero, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about my opponent. My greatest achievement is winning Olympic gold medals. Mark Henry's greatest achievement is getting a 72-year-old woman pregnant, which the crowd pops for. While it may have taken intensity, it clearly didn't take any integrity or intelligence. What a line. I popped huge for that.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
And maybe that type of child conceiving out of wedlock works in Texas, but it doesn't work for me. And just on all cylinders delivering here with this promo and getting the crowd to turn on him. And it gets Mark Henry over because when he comes in, he's like got a fire under his ass. He's doing all these power moves and the crowd is behind him. Also, he's the hometown guy. I also like that Angle tried to go for a double leg and Mark Henry no-sold it and just did a power bomb. Really cool moves, really cool work in the brief moments that they were together. They end up on the outside. Angle gives Mark Henry an over-the-head suplex, which was insane on the outside.
Yeah.
So that's a big drop for a big man. All of a sudden, Mae Young runs in, gets in the ring, and just starts attacking Kurt Angle. Ref calls for the bell, and it looks like they're dancing. Kurt Angle just dips and grabs Mae Young and does the Olympic slam and immediately like celebrates like he's won the Olympics.
Yeah.
It looked perfect. It was so hilarious. It vicious.
Yeah, it was great. It kind of weirdly, all this stuff going on, and this kind of weirdly stole the show as far as a moment.
Yeah, exactly. This is talked about to this day. Like we talked about this on our Mae Young special, which every time we mention Mae Young now, I do want to mention we did a whole like 90-minute special going through all of her segments during this little moment in time.
Oh, yeah. It's the Mae Young show. Unbelievable.
And again, Jim Ross, who was wonderful tonight, just goes, how can Kurt look himself in the mirror after what he's done?
Yeah.
Backstage, we see The Rock is arriving in a beautiful silk blue shirt. It's unbuttoned because Dallas is hot. A great segment backstage. All the EMTs are attending to Mae, and she says, I don't like being on my back. I like being on top. Everyone wants to see my puppies.
Yeah, it's out of control. Yeah, it's
so the camera is behind Mae, so you see her back as she takes off her top, and then it zooms in on the EMT guy in front of her, who just gives the best reaction shot of all time. Of just like,
yeah, it's out of control.
What? Like, there's so much going on this show. There's heat, there's laughter, there's workery. Like, this is just a great buffet of pro wrestling.
Yeah,
you know?
This is the Attitude Era apex.
Yes.
You know? How about this? How about that? You know, as Vince Russo would call it, crash TV.
Yeah, and to that point, the next segment is the Hollies. They're coming out to the ring. They said one win in a hardcore match against the Acolytes is going to change their momentum since they've been losing. Crash says, the Acolytes aren't the only ones who could offer protection around here. Hardcore looks at him like, what's wrong with you? I must have whacked you in the head one too many times. And then, so it's a hardcore match with the Hollies against the Acolytes. Within like 2 seconds, they're at the concession stand. Shades of the Two Below concession stand brawl.
Yes.
And a great moment where as soon as they get there, both members of APA who are separated in their fights, both get distracted by the beer availability and just start drinking beer like they're Barney from The Simpsons, like just chugging from the tap. Good. That is how you get people over. Like relatable moments like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna clip that little moment because I feel like, how is that not a viral wrestling? Like, that's a completely forgotten Attitude Era moment, and it's so good.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
Think about it. Just in this episode, there's like 10 legendary moments. Oh, and this hilarious moment that no one even talks about.
Yeah. And just these monsters who'd be like, well, how can you? Well, you can offer money or beer. Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is very fun. And the match ends with Bradshaw and Hardcore Holly standing on top of a beer station. And Bradshaw's about to powerbomb Hardcore. Viscera shows up out of nowhere with a 2x4. And as he swings to strike Bradshaw, he slips because the floor is wet with beer from the brawl. And it's the most unintentional, funny moment of the night. Like, he misses a spot because he slips, but whatever. He recovers right away, hits him, and they still get to the finish. But just that 2 seconds of realism adds so much to the chaos of this match.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't even call it a botch.
Right, because it's
like,
you're right,
it's a golden botch. Let's call it that.
Yes, fortuitous botching.
Yeah.
Like
I'm going to go with
blood?
golden botch. Fortuitous botching is too many syllables.
Fair.
But golden botch is it's a new term we've just made. It's a botch that enhances the spot, that becomes a great spot. It's not like, oh, that took the momentum away. A botch that somehow increases the momentum, even though it was a mistake, a slip or whatever.
After the break, Chris Jericho's out. He welcomes everyone to Raw is Jericho. Crowd is with him. He says he has to wrestle Big Viscera. I'm a little intimidated. It's the love child of Mr. T and Fat Albert. Jerry Lawler liked that one. He goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta warn you, Viscera the Hut. I pity the fool who messes with Y2J. It's a quick match. Jericho eventually gets the advantage, hits the line salt. He's about to win, and the Hollies come out as payback and give Viscera protection. And so it's a non-finish, a DQ. It's okay, because the Acolytes then come out to attack the Hollies and then ultimately get their heat back by giving Viscera a beautiful double suplex. Fun moment.
Yes. Why not?
Then it's an interview with the Radicalz backstage. And I like that all throughout the show, maybe 2 or 3 times, you showed the top of the show angle. Because, of course, people are watching Nitro or tuning into other shows. And this is an important turning point in the story. So you want to make sure everyone's up to date.
And I don't know why they don't do that. Like we said this many times. You watch a fucking football game. Like, here's what happened in the first quarter. Here's that here's that disastrous fumble. Or whatever. You constantly keep them. It just seems like, I don't know whether it's like too much of a production pain in the ass or whatever, but this machine was rolling. I love that. It's always like, here we are again, and here's why, and etc.
Cole is grilling them like, I thought there was a sincere friendship there. And Malenko said, we were sincere. And Cole said, you fooled Mick Foley. And he says, the key word is fool, because we're no fools to put friendship before business. And Cole goes, Benoit, Cactus Jack had your back. Benoit says, well, he may have had our back, but he had no stroke. He couldn't give us contracts. And then what if Foley can't find any partners? Well, then he'd be more desperate than we are. So every guy gets a line. They're establishing their personalities and showing, like you said, that they're mercenaries. They're here for money and contracts and gold. Backstage, Luna is losing her mind to her partner, Gangrel. She's upset about Jackie hitting her with a chair last week and says that she wants to win the world title. Gangrel is trying to keep her cool and says if she can keep a cool head, she can end up as champion. Then we get the women's title match, Luna versus Jackie. Luna is billed from the other side of darkness. Chair wonders, where is the other side of darkness anyway? Jackie gets a huge pop. She's from Dallas. She gets a hometown pop.
And she's incredible.
And she's great. Severely underrated, even though she's a Hall of Famer. The match starts with the two of them kind of rolling outside in like a fist fight, cat fight moment. And the ref is like in the middle and he's taking a lot of stiff punches to the body from both of them. I thought this was going to quickly end with a DQ, but no. Ends up back in the ring. And a few seconds later, Jackie gets a belly to back suplex with a beautiful bridge and gets the pin. Luna's pissed. She attacks her and she throws her into Gangrel, who gives Jackie an impaler, which is his finisher, which looked kind of brutal. I wonder where this is headed.
Well, this ended up sucking because of what happened with Luna and what have you. But this was kind of the beginning of talking of like, hey, I think they'd be a fun couple. And to me, so Dr. Vince was always pitching it, was like intriguing to me that she's out of control and the reasonable one is a vampire with teeth, who's kind of like, you got to like calm down, but maybe like Gangrel would help Luna, advance her career and they would be a couple and vice versa, and so this was kind of like a first, like, okay, let's give them a little, not a vignette, a little spot in front and see what happens. So I had high hopes for them just because I found them to be a very intriguing couple, and they were a real life couple, and just I always liked the fact of just like someone with real bonded vampire teeth going like, look, calm down, you're being insane, to someone else. So, but unfortunately it ran its course fast and didn't work out, but I had high hopes at this point.
We learned that Raw is live next week at 10 Central, I think, because there's like a dog show or something, some sort of preemption.
It's that damn dog show, which was so funny because I remember like Vince being pissed too, and everyone like, what the hell? Why is there this dog show thing when the numbers are so massive and everything's peaking? And then like, okay, hold on, there's the dog show. But I guess it was contracted forever. But the dog show also would not get great ratings. So it was something
at this point. Well, like when it started, it was like Raw was pulling like a 1. Yeah, the dog show was pulling like a 2, so it was worth it.
And also, it was early cable TV. We're like, oh, we need content. Here's a dog show. Here's a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that went away. So some people theorized like it was kind of a nod to like highbrow people or something. I don't know, but it was a weird momentum like change. Like, why couldn't you just change the date or whatever? But that's that. So that's kind of why it became a West Coast show. More on that next time.
I see. And then we have a great video package of Taz. This is nice. Showed some footage of him in action. He got a little promo time. He says he's or the announcers say Taz is an animal, a street animal. He talks and says people I grew up with are either dead or in jail. And the final graphic shows the 13 and then his new catchphrase, the mood is about to change.
Nice. All right.
I like it. A little soft reset on Taz after 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, again, we've said how of like, Vince is hemming and hawing. But again, the pop rules. So that's a big thing, like Taz certainly like, just, this is a little different now. He's going to Texas, but in the Northeast, like, that's always going to impress anyone. And Vince. And like I said before, there's plenty of people who Vince didn't like. I can't imagine Vince liking CM Punk going like, now there's a guy. And there's so many things about him that he didn't like, I'm sure. Size, this, that, and the other. But his popularity, his pop, and his, he made himself over. So Vince ultimately, like, he had the title for a year, So you got to always remember that about Vince. The pop rules.
Absolutely.
Put it on a shirt.
Like Hulk rules, but pop rules. All right.
Yeah. All right.
We get a promo with The Rock. He's talking to Kevin Kelly. Huge pop. Asks Kevin, have you ever had pie? And Kevin says, well, of course I've had apple pie this morning. It was delicious. No, I mean poontang pie. You've never had poontang pie. And The Rock reveals his new poontang pie shirt, which all the men were wearing at the time. That's how you get the ladies, is you walk around with a shirt of a bull eating pie, and it says poontang pie.
Yeah. Especially if you don't look like The Rock and you're a big fat slob.
Yeah. It's the way to a lady's heart. So then he drapes the poontang pie shirt over Kevin Kelly. It says it's the closest he'll get to poontang pie. While he cuts a promo on the Big Show, exactly what you expect. All the phrases, the crowd is singing along. He says The Rock is meant to go to WrestleMania and win the title. And at one point he asks Kevin if he's enjoying the poontang pie or is he a little come see, come sa, which... What? But all right. He then says, Cactus, you have a situation where it's 5-on-1. Well, now it's 5-on-2. The Rock will be your partner. And the crowd reacts very positively to such a thing. And he goes on to say, Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, whatever. The Rock doesn't care. I love this dismissiveness that he does. You brag about your contracts. Well, you could roll them up, shine them up real nice, and stick them straight up your kind of ass. The crowd is having so much fun, they erupt into a Rocky chant.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's the promo. Godfather and D'Lo come out. Crowd is into them. Godfather's doing the spiel, gets interrupted by the Dudleys. And also, clearly, Godfather and D'Lo have been working on the house shows because they have some really fun double team moves that they do during the match. Godfather gets chop blocked. He's taken out on the outside. D'Lo goes for a frog splash on Devon. And Bubba interrupts, throws D'Lo into the ropes. Devon grabs D'Lo for the 3D, and the Dudleys win.
Yeah. Oh, that's only 2 Ds. Oh, where's the third D?
I love double Ds. Anyway.
Nice. Get you in a time machine back to Lawler.
Yeah, I got to get me with 99 2000 Lawler. The Dudleys set up a table as BB, the emergency
Speaking
attendant.
of double Ds,
BB with the DDs. They grab BB and they tease putting her through a table until Edge, Christian, and the Hardys all come from the crowd to save her. This was great. Cactus Jack offers another great promo. Backstage, quickly hyping up the main event, saying that he's been proving people wrong for 15 years and that he'll go through tonight, he'll get through No Way Out, win the world title, and head to WrestleMania. Bang, bang. It's the main event. DX come out first. The Radicalz come out with the most generic song. I love that. I assume just Jim Johnson had this just cue of generic rock.
Yeah,
I don't throw at people.
I have no idea where that one came from, but I just know everything was so fast. Like, okay, that's our song. Got it.
Yeah, Sure. Then Cactus Jack comes out. Good pop. Rock comes out, great pop. They're running to the ring to start the action. The crowd is already hype. All of a sudden, the light's lower and Too Cool's music hits. They'll be their partners as well. So it's The Rock, Cactus Jack, Grandmaster Sexay, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Rikishi against Triple H, X-Pac, Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko. Crowd is rabidly hot for this opening. Like, this is like the best crowd you could possibly want for this guy. They're just going absolutely nuts. It's a Pier 6 brawl.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just another testament to how, like I said before, like when everyone's over, it's easy. Because you could easily see, I can't imagine 10-man tags. They're almost always a shit fest. 8-man, it's always like, oh, we're just putting this together. And this one it just peaked, and you're just kind of like throwing all this shit at the kitchen sink out there, and it works, like just because of everyone involved.
In the moment too, because it never allowed the crowd to get tired and bored, because as soon as the crowd dies down, you just tag somebody else in and the crowd is revved back up with a pop, like, oh, now this guy's doing moves. Oh, now now the Rock is in. Oh, now I'm going crazy. Let's get some heat.
They all worked so well. And also sometimes I think, they were like the NWO was so exciting. At a certain point, it was getting to where like, oh, everyone's joining the NWO. And remember people like that were like on the WCW side, it was just sad. It seemed like, oh, you wanted to root for them. They're underdogs, but it just was like, forget it. Everyone's in the NWO, so we wanted to have like this, like, oh, immediately, even though Triple H is in charge and now he's got the Radicalz as an immediate threat, and it was like, that was kind of important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that the sides evened with great logic. Like, if you follow the storylines, it makes sense why Rikishi and Too Cool want revenge against Triple H. They've been feuding. So I'm into it. And the crowd was really, really into it. And also, everyone is over. The crowd knows everyone. I think the most interesting moment of this was seeing Scotty 2 Hotty do the worm, and how the reaction was almost as loud as to The Rock, not quite the Rock pop, but still a huge, huge reaction. The Rock getting tagged in was the biggest pop, I thought. And he's working on X-Pac. He almost gets the win. Triple H breaks it up. Then he tags out to Grandmaster Sexay and kind of like puts over Grandmaster Sexay a little just by tagging him in, giving him the spot where he puts on the goggles and does the leg drop. So I thought this did a huge service to specifically Too Cool, just being in the ring with everyone else, and really the Radicalz as well, because you're showing like this is the main event picture, and the surrounding people of it.
And it's a merry-go-round of get your shit in fest.
Yes. Yes. Great schmozzing here.
And also, which is like, you just got to take your hat off to everyone here and the agents, because like I said, this thrown together and them working on it and the timing, you're just always impressed. Like, holy shit. You got to remember, these guys didn't like, okay, we're going to work out this massive match next week and let's meet at the, the performance center for 3 hours a day, and work. No, it's just like, let's sit down and talk it through. The inherent professionalism in the timing of everyone was like, this is crazy. Like how good everyone is.
It really, and everyone's on top of their game. No one's being selfish. I thought it was really cool how Triple H got the pedigree on Grandmaster Sexay, and I thought he was going to get the win, but instead he tags into Benoit, who gets the win with the headbutt. It's like, why not? Give Benoit a little more shine.
Sure.
And of course, Sexay can take the loss. Him and Scotty 2 Hotty are the lowest on the totem pole. It makes sense. The heels should look strong. Why not? And then even after, there's more chaos, more schmozzing. Crowd is losing it. New Age Outlaws come out. They have pipes. The odds are stacked against the faces. All of a sudden, the lights go out. Like, what? What else could there be? And Paul Bearer walks out.
Yeah.
And it's Kane. He needs revenge on X-Pac.
Yeah.
By God, it's Kane. And he comes in, he clears house. The faces stand strong. What's going to happen on SmackDown on Thursday?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Had it all. Yeah. Just, a platinum schmoz fest.
Yeah, absolutely. This was great.
You know,
and you still have 2 more weeks of build for the No Way Out pay-per-view.
Yeah, this was rewatching this. I was like, wow, because I kind of saw the rundown and I'm like, oh yeah, and then like, just what this was like one of those weird cooking shows where they have like a triple cheeseburger that's made on a donut, you know, just something ridiculous where you'd be like, that's just too much, and then some like guy eats it and be like, oh, I can't believe it, it's actually really great. You know, like it's just like too much. One of those strange Guy Fieri sandwiches dripping all over your face, but like it's delicious and it works.
And also, it's like, this isn't the type of episode you could really get away with every week because it would get tiresome. But for this moment, it worked perfectly.
And it did. And part of that was because the Radicalz were a new thing. So that's like 3-4 new guys in there. You know what I mean? If you just suddenly did that with all the participants. And
yeah, you know, they really, I will say, like right before they showed up, like literally right before, it did feel a little like the lineups felt a little stale. Like, oh, it's the same 15 people and you're just kind of rearranging them a little bit in the mid card.
Sure.
And now everything seems rejuvenated.
Yeah, it seems fresh. No, that's a good point, because that's always that's the conundrum you're in. You're like, oh, we gotta, you know, make things fresh, and then, you know, you're switching things up, and then you get diminishing returns of doing that for so many weeks in a row. You're like, oh, now we're just, you know, and again, when everyone's over and in their storylines, everything works. And you can have like, oh, the Acolytes have a beer spot, and they're not really in the, you know, just all these elements. And you're right, this was a good crescendo. And then it's always like that was the horror of the business too. Was like, that's incredible. Okay, what now? I don't know, but we can't do that again. You know, so we gotta. And how do we slow down or go to 2 speeds or you know, that's like, you know,
right? Yeah, business, you do have to like slow the engine down a little bit.
And well, I always talk about the time that Austin hurt his neck and then he ended up getting hit by the car. It's like, ooh, that was something that truthfully happened, that changed the direction of something that everyone followed that you couldn't make up. So part of it was like looking at the matches and like what was good and trying to like get something out of that to go forward and not just sit and write it. You know what I mean? That's the problem, I think, a lot when there's like you start having established writers' rooms and what are the ideas, and the performers start to be like, okay, what am I doing? As opposed to like, okay, this is what I got going on, or this is what happened, or this match sucked, you know, or people going down and up based on what happened in matches, you know, et cetera.
Very exciting moment. I wanted to read a few notes from the Observer.
Nice.
So we learned that British Bulldog missed TV this past week due to a back injury. Stevie Richards still being kept out of the ring because his foot isn't 100%. That's got to be rough for Stevie because you keep trying to insert him into stuff and then he has to be pulled off the show, right?
Right.
Is that weird? Like, have you ever had something and you're like, oh, actually, we can't use him right now. He's injured. Something like that.
You know, it's just like a football team. You get like a little heads up, you know, at some point, and you know that was like, okay, you know, like okay, and then starting left linebackers out, so this guy steps up or whatever, or you know.
Now, Test has a bulging disc in his back, so he's going to be out for another week or 2. He's the current hardcore champion. I guess we haven't seen Test on TV in a minute. Also, it says fitness model Trish Stratus is expected to start with a television role within a few months. Do you get like heads up here? Like, hey, we're bringing in this model. Her name is Trish Stratus. This is what she looks like. Start thinking about a role for her or something like that.
Exactly that. Yeah. Sometimes we just get like in the post-production meeting or sometime with Vince in not anything like a specific, but like, yeah, here's a heads up. This person's coming in, you know, what, you know, think of some stuff. Exactly that. So, oh, okay. You know,
here's something fun. The Boston Globe on 220 had a lengthy article in the Child Care Center on how parents should deal with their kids who like WWF, noting its popularity among 9 to 12-year-old boys. The article had a major factual mistake, saying SmackDown was the second most watched program on network TV. It hovered between 70 and 95 in the ratings. It said that professionals who study the influence of pop culture on children say boys would be better off if they never watched WWF, but said it's too late for that. Being a wrestling fan wouldn't make a child who isn't going to hit another go out and hit another, but it does make all children watching to a degree less sensitive to real life violence and lose their sense of how much it hurts when people punch other people.
Yeah, well, yeah.
All right.
I guess kids need guidance and direction with things, and they need it explained. Let's go back to my brother was 10 years older than me. Way back in the day, there was a phenomena, I guess it would be the late 50s, of little kids tying blankets around their neck and jumping off the garage and hurting themselves because they were so enamored with Superman, which was an incredibly successful TV show of the late 50s. And there was articles about that, like, kids think they can fly. So, yeah.
There's also no
raise your kids right, damn it.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a note that when Jim Ross went to interview Steve Austin in Texas, he stopped by San Antonio to meet with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels expressed interest in returning to television, but nothing was decided. And also, he wanted Ross to take a look at some of the wrestlers that Michaels has been training at his academy, famously one of them being Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. Do you remember being pitched on, hey, maybe come up with something for Michaels, we might bring him back? Or was it not even in the conversation?
No. He was he at this show? I met him just briefly at, maybe it was a San Antonio show or this show, just, there's just so much going on that, like, we'd get a little like, like when, the Undertaker's training and he had a little setback. Okay. So, just a little nod to something, but nothing, till he was like a week away, or whatever, and that was the amazing part of this era, and this, like, the machine, I call it, when it's like, okay, Shawn Michaels is going to be in San Antonio, we need some stuff. Oh, okay. and the amount of whatever you needed that could come up with in 10 hours, 8 hours, 15 hours, we need to blow up an ambulance, whatever. Didn't matter. The machine would handle it.
Well, we've been enjoying watching The Machine. We hope you enjoy our machine. Please follow us at our machine.
Especially if you're a fan of The Machines. Remember The Machines?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Oh, whoa.
Love The Machines, baby.
Yeah. But I'd like to see is there a reverse angle where you have like just every figure, or?
No, I don't. I only have a few. I have this guy. I have Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. I have Pentagon and Phoenix.
Oh, what a strange, eclectic mix.
Yeah, just wrestlers that mean something.
All right.
So that's our show, tftattitudeera@gmail.com. We'd love to have your feedback or any questions for our future Q&A episode. And, of course, follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok and Instagram, TFT Attitude Era. And that's it. We'll see you next week on Tales from the Attitude Era.